What you checking on?
Happy Friday. Just the news.
Just the news? What's in the news?
Lots of words and things.
Okay. It's extremely vague.
Happy Friday.
Okay.
We'll jump right in. What do you think of this whole TikTok ban? They're trying to.
Well, they've been trying to do it a while ago.
Yeah, but I feel like now people are more, because they had the CEO of TikTok come and testify in Congress yesterday, I think it was.
Okay.
And
what prompted this?
The Biden administration is like, I think, worried of like privacy with TikTok users in like America because of its ties to China and everything. So I know when Trump was president, they tried to do a whole
Do you know
TikTok ban.
Why they're banning it? Not only ties to China, because we have so many ties to China with like all the things. Like,
well, they think that China's gonna like find a way to get like user data and like spy on people.
It's 100%. No, if you read the user agreement, it's one of the most
that's what they're afraid of.
Exposing of the user agreement, meaning like when you sign your TikTok user agreements that nobody looks over.
Obviously, yeah.
Right? Nobody does. You're granting permission for them to access not only your content that you're watching on that, but content on different platforms and content, including passwords, on different devices apart from your iPhone.
Yeah. And that's the whole fear is like if they are able to use all of that data, like, and then for whatever reason, China decides to, because even though the company operates here in the U.S., is what I read, China still kind of has the overall like authority over it.
Right.
So if they wanted to, basically what U.S. is saying is they could. There's no evidence that they've done it or have, but how would we know?
Interesting. So did you know that the TikTok in China is completely different than TikTok in the United States?
I think we've talked about it.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has anything to do with...
Like here in the United States, the algorithm is a bunch of dumb dances and stupid pranks and dumb little excerpts. Over there, it's like showcasing accomplishments.
Yeah, like scientific experiments, and this is what I've done. Do you think that the algorithm did that based on what Americans here were using it for? Or do you think China specifically, or the creator of the app specifically started that kind of trend in the US for people to like get on board with that? Like, well, do you think that happened because people were just like on the app and started doing dances, or do you think that was kind of prompted and people were like, oh?
I think, okay, so this is a question of social evolution, right?
Right.
And you can't just come out with something and then everybody buys into it. Like, you can't just be like, hey, we're wearing parachute pants in 2023. Like, that was a thing way earlier.
Well, unless you're like a fashion icon, then people
unless you're a fashion icon, that's sure. But you can't come up with like here's a great example. The release of short form video content was, I think TikTok kind of paved the way for Instagram, but it was something that the people already, because of like exposure to social media and how readily available it is through our phones, I think it was just a perfect opportunity to introduce something that we already wanted, right? Because there's this evolutionary process of like digesting content.
Right.
So there's these like dumb conspiracy videos that they put out there where they go, there's this voiceover and be like, they programmed us to be consumers and they programmed us to be, poor, and they programmed us. Like, nobody programmed you for anything. They saw the way you consumed content and they catered to you.
Right. They
saw you look up a purse and then you saw ads. They saw you maybe speaking about it. So I think the catering of the type of content that's presented to you, that's not them trying to brainwash you. I think that's what you're doing, that they're just providing you what you want. It's kind of like Uber or, what do they call it at hotels when they
Uber Eats?
No, at hotels when they bring, when you bring
The valet?
Not the valet, but like
Concierge?
no,
Bellhop? I don't know.
no. So when you're trying to have food delivered to your room, who do you call it?
Room service.
Room service. So it's a service that's provided because you're wanting it and you're inquiring it, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. Nobody created Amazon in the forefront of their brain to be like, one day people are gonna we're gonna transform
everything.
it. No, it's
Yeah.
because they saw a pattern of behavior. They're like,
And
well,
it evolves.
people want to go buy stuff, so they go to a place that has the majority of it. So what it is, it's the mall. Okay, so go to the mall. Okay, well, what if we create the mall, which is one big building with multiple stores, but it's something that could easily accessible? Okay, well, what if we created just one warehouse virtually that people can shop anything from Q-tips to baby carriers? It's just people study human behaviors the same way we study apes or chimps or the migratory patterns of whales that they, we're just another animal that people who are aware are just gonna be like, let's just follow this trend for a little bit, right? Like right now, if you and I pause for a second, I know we're doing like this big segue. So we're in the time right now where everything gets delivered, whether it's groceries or things or supplies, office supplies, all gets delivered for free to your house, to your door after, by free, I mean, you're not really paying shipping costs on Amazon, okay?
Right.
We're already accustomed to getting our information from this stuff. And now that they created ChatGPT, which way do you think this is kind of progressing? Like, what do you think is the next kind of like trajectory of it?
Not having to ever leave your house.
Exactly. So now entertainment probably,
Yeah.
right? So now you probably have, I know the metaverse thing, Mark Zuckerberg, he kind of shot himself in the foot. He was a little too soon for his time. Maybe I don't know if it's too soon, but
Maybe it
nobody
will
wanted to
evolve.
virtually hang out, right? But you now have the ability to have social interactions via the internet. So we're always going to progress towards somehow merging with this AI technology. So that's not them going, hey, let's manipulate them so they never have to move their house.
But do you think the app is innocent, or do you think
No. So, okay.
if they have that agreement, that means they're very open,
Okay,
obviously,
so what's your
about it,
fear
but-
behind that app and the agreement?
I mean, the whole thing was like the privacy thing. If they are
Okay.
looking at our data, I don't really use it. So
Right.
to me, I'm kind of indifferent. I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. It seems like the U.S. is more afraid of China spying on us.
Right. No, but I don't think it's the spying that's an issue, right? I mean, okay, no, let me backtrack a little bit. Yes, the spying could be an issue if they had allegedly the weather balloon above the
Right.
Montana and Wyoming and a couple other states before it was taken down. That is okay. So let me backtrack a little bit. I think spying in terms of, let's say you are somebody who works at a Pentagon, but you're, let's say, maybe just a front desk gal, right? I could see the spying of like, you have a TikTok, and by you signing this user agreement, they are able to get a hold of different computers and
Right.
and get intel information.
Right.
That's a whole different conversation, right? Because that's more,
Well, maybe that's what they're meaning.
to a degree, that could be the case, right? If there's enough people. But if we're gonna go like spyware in terms of just like regular people like you and
Yeah.
I, and we didn't read the user agreement like nobody does, and then sign off for them to, let's say, like use our data. The data is a currency. Now, what does it mean by currency? The data becomes, and I can't support any of these arguments or deny them because I have a partaking in this in my job. Here's what I mean by it. The data that Verizon will sell, the data that Instagram will sell, the data that Facebook would sell, the data that Like to Know It will sell. The data is the analytics of human behavior, right? It's essentially, you have billions of scientists with pen and paper, boots on the ground, and they're tracking what you're doing, right? The data gets sold from one app to another advertising company all the time. So why is that currency? It's because if you could track patterns of behavior, certain people, that information could be sold off to an advertising company who knows exactly what you want and when you want it and present it that time. Okay. Here's a great example. I think, Kyle, you and I were talking about it a while ago, where if you, let's say I do pour over coffee and I have those like filters, those 4 folded filters I have to put in the Chemex, and I've bought 1, 2, or 3 of those, or maybe I just put it in my shopping cart and later on take off. Amazon, based off these analytics and studying of your behavior, will actually all of a sudden start stocking that, which before it took maybe 7 days to get delivered, will start stocking that at your local Amazon warehouse, the closest to you, that it could be delivered the next day because it's anticipating you to buy it. It's a repeating. That is, these are analytics, and analytics are studying of people's behavior. The reason why it's connected to me is because in my line of work, when I use YouTube to upload these YouTube, I have data that was either people, I don't think it was sold to YouTube, but it was data that people signed off on that my information can be used by YouTube. People probably didn't know, but every video that gets watched, I could see which percentage are male and female, which part of the country they're from, how long they're watching it, were they subscribers, were they not subscribers, are they using Android devices? Are they watching it on their phone? Are they watching it on their desktop? Are they watching on their TV? I could see all that information, and in the user agreement, you release that. So it benefits me because then I have this catalog of human behavior of my audience or people who are not even subscribed to me, and look at it and be, okay, so what is the best way for me to create content? Because clearly people are consuming it, and they're consuming it in this fashion.
Right. You could see what's working,
I
what's
could see
not working.
exactly. I could see in the very beginning, the 60 seconds is very important in a video, and you could see a drop off. And the drop off in the 60 seconds is you didn't sell them on what you're going to be doing, right? What you promised them to show them, or B, they accidentally clicked out, right? And so you see this drop off. So like, I could take that information and be like, hey, let's get rid of our intro video. Like we would have introduction video, like this cool, like increase the production. But once we got rid of it, we increased that number higher. This is data that people signed off on, knowing or not. But I use it for my benefit of being able to create content that people already want to consume in the way they want to consume it.
Right.
So there's no strategy of like brainwashing. The brainwashing comes from more of like conspiratorial thing where it's what do they call it? Like not fake news, but there's like misinformation that people are deliberately trying to. What was I was gonna say?
I feel like you're probably right, and it's not the necessary that they're like, TikTok shouldn't be looking at random people's data. I think that is exactly probably it, is somebody that's working for one of the government agencies, and maybe they are just a front desk person, but they have some important things on their email or something, and that they could get into that data, and it's probably something that's kind of what they're afraid
I
of.
think at that point it spreads like a wild virus, right? Because
do you think, now that I'm thinking about it, do you think like the government, if you're working for like a top, let's say like the Pentagon, maybe depending on your position, do you think you're not allowed to have TikTok? Like an account?
That's a great question. I don't think it's that limiting because you're controlling people's behavior.
Yeah.
Now,
well, I wonder if that's just something you sign.
Yeah.
It makes me think if they're that afraid of it, I wonder if there is like an agreement. If you want this position, you can't have this. Like. Yeah,
I think maybe you're right, because this is the first time I'm exploring this idea. It's
just interesting reading about it.
If it's been in the news and it's been a question of like security system, a level of security, I could see them going like, either you can't have your phone in this premise.
Yeah. Or that. Maybe
or
you have
B,
to like drop it.
You can't be on it.
Yeah.
And
obviously there's some very secure things they have to do. It was just interesting because the articles I was reading, the lawmakers are all in agreement that this should be banned. And it's kind of crazy when they met. It seems like even with the CEO kind of trying to tell them and that like this is not what we're doing, this is just an app, nobody was kind of convinced of his stories and saying he's lying. So I don't know, that's why it's like interesting, because they are all against the app, all the lawmakers from
That's-
all the articles I've read. So
it's
it's not like
interesting.
it's, some people are like, we need to ban this, and other people are like, no, it's fine, let's hear them out. Everybody was kind of against.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening this, because I think this is
And
the
even
first
if they
time.
can,
This is the first time a very popular app.
the most popular app,
yeah.
if you could argue.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see. But I was noticing more people on Instagram, talking about it. So that's why it was kind of like, oh, I think people are more. But it doesn't seem like people are that afraid. I mean,
people are naive. I mean, people are
that
uneducated.
it will go away.
On whether it's bad or the fact that it will go away. It's just one of those things that, like, I actually use TikTok. I don't put out too much content on there because I don't, it performs better on Instagram. But I like to consume content because I'll go on Instagram Reels and I don't get that comedic relief from
Reels don't have
most of my reels are guys doing like 7-second clips of their cars.
Oh, it's probably
Like-
because that's what it's catered to.
Well,
You
right.
started
It's-
looking
it's-
at
it's
car
already- yeah,
stuff on
so-
Reels, and now it's not like funny.
And it'll give me this recipe of like, this is how you get this montage. There'll be like 12 steps. It'd be like the first clip is 3 seconds. The second clip is 2.4 seconds.
Oh, how to
and it goes to
create
the beat of the
one?
music
Yeah.
to that. So like all my stuff is like that.
Yeah. Mine are all like design stuff. And then every once in a while, it would be like a funny one or something. Or
I keep
like
hearing
kids.
people having completely wacky algorithms where they're like, I've never once searched this stuff. I know that it'll cater to you if you like glance over it. But
Even if you're scrolling and you happen to scroll a little bit slower,
yeah, and pause. Yeah.
pause, it will remember that.
Yep.
And now the next time you're searching, it will pop up
There
a million
was-
other things of that.
There's this documentary on.
So don't scroll when you're scrolling.
yeah,
Don't
have a
pause on
pace,
boobs.
Yeah, have a pace. There is this documentary on Netflix I watched last spring, I want to say, and it was the documentary on TikTok, and I think they took like 1, 2, or 3 like big influencers on TikTok, like millions of followers, and they were kind of doing this deep dive on how TikTok works and how invasive their algorithm is, to the degree that they were saying that because you gave them access to basically all the passwords, all the computers that you're logged into.
That's insane.
But even your photo library and your camera, the camera on your camera phone. And here's why: is their analytics are basing it off of when you swipe. They're seeing your biometrics on your face, the facial recognition. The way facial recognition works is the software puts dots like your cheekbones, your lip, all this stuff, like your eyes, and it sees change, higher, lower kind of thing. And even though it's slight, they're seeing an emotional reaction to it, right?
So if you're laughing,
When somebody lies,
yeah.
they'll even like look away or whatever.
Right.
Like they're seeing something of a positive or negative change to a degree, right?
Right.
In golf, when you hit a golf club, when you have the analytics, you'd be like, it's 3% to the left, 4%. Okay.
always got to bring in the golf.
I shot
analogy.
a really good score today.
so you're
when
feeling
we're golfing,
good.
I'm feeling good today. And so what in the documentary they're saying that by you signing that agreement, you are allowing them access to your camera phone. So when you're consuming the content, they're seeing a facial response. So something that makes you angry, something that makes you happy, something that makes you intrigued. They're registering the biometrics and catering more and more information to
when
you.
you do have that like a response in your face.
Yep.
So even if you're mad, they're gonna keep sending you those videos.
Well, Facebook is a great example of that, except Facebook doesn't use the camera analytic or biometric. Facebook will cater to you based on an anger emotional response. So if there's political stuff that's put up, whether it's left or right leaning, and you have a particular like dislike face or a negative comment or a like, which is positive, it will cater to you more and more of that stuff. Because if like The Social Dilemma, the documentary, The Social Dilemma on Netflix is fantastic.
I still haven't seen that.
You really haven't seen it?
I know.
It's one of the best documentaries
Is this still on Netflix?
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it this weekend.
It's one of the top documentaries out there they have the top CEOs of Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook. They're part of this documentary, like explaining what their process is. Oh, here's another cool one. I was watching another documentary. I forgot maybe you remember the name of it. It's the one, it was kind of like, it was about Trump's 2013 election.
Oh,
and you were like, it's slow.
It was a little bit slow in the beginning. But what was that called?
While you're looking it up. Yeah. So it was basically, they were breaking down, there's this company, this analytic company. It's called something Analytica. I forgot what the name was. It's a European company. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that are doing the analytics.
Is it called The Great Hack?
Yeah, The Great Hack, I think. They're doing something Analytica is this company in Europe. They were basically doing all these experiments with people in the United States via Facebook to manipulate, this is according to the documentary, the Trump's 2013 election. I'm hoping I'm correct with the date, 2013 is when. And what they were breaking down, I didn't finish the documentary, but what they were breaking down, a big point about it is they figured out kind of like hypnosis, right? You know, when you go to like a King County Fair or something like that, or a county fair, they do this like hypnosis presentation, like who wants to be hypnotized, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of skepticism out there, but the reality is that hypnosis works, but only works in a very limited population of people who are able to be hypnotized, right? Mm-hmm. Like a susceptible person, people who, I'm just taking a wild guess, maybe somebody who's like a people pleaser, you know what I mean? Or somebody who's very gullible, like that kind of people who are less skeptics, right? And they figured,
like me.
I'm not pointing fingers, but they figured out the analytics behind it. There is a population of people within every state, and they broke down every state based by these small like acreage sizes or square mile acreage of what the demographic of people are able to be essentially hypnotized or convinced. Mm-hmm. And they essentially targeted those people via their analytics of presenting them ads to steer one way or another. Because the majority, I don't want to say the majority, but there's a large population of people who are skeptics, and they're like, oh, whatever. Oh, I see what they're doing here. If you're right leaning and they have these like left wing propaganda, you go, oh, they're doing this thing. If you're left leaning and they show right wing, they're most people are centrist. They're more of like, they have this clarity to be like, I see what they're doing. They're trying to turn us against them and whatever. I don't want any part with it. That's a normal, like clear thinking person.
Right.
But what this Analytica company is doing from Europe is they're finding people who are far more susceptible to a hypnosis state or a convincing state where they're far more triggered. They're either left or right. They are extreme left or extreme right. They're more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. They're more likely to believe in like whatever folklore you want to present to lizard people, like the hollow moon theory or the flat earth theory. They're targeting those kind of people. And next thing you know, the word spreads and the votes get cast in.
Yeah, within that like group of people.
So data is information, right? Like and I don't think information is bad. Like I use it for my work.
Right.
And I don't
most
think
people are.
I don't think it's that intrusive where I'm like, well, most people watch YouTube videos between this time and that time. And most people have a duration of that. And it's primarily males compared to female. Like but I also don't think that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll get backlash for this, but I don't know if it's that bad of a deal. Like, because I believe everybody's responsible for their own thing, right? Mm-hmm. Unless your information is leaked for the world, where it's like your bank account, how much you have in your savings account, and whatever content inappropriate you send somebody.
Everything that's on your phone.
Right. But your spending habits or your, like, for example, information like you're more likely to purchase things between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., right? Mm-hmm. Because it's post-dinner. Everything's cleaned up. Kids are kind of maybe put away or getting ready for bed. You're on the couch, you're scrolling through, and you maybe had a cocktail, so you're kind of a little bit loose. You're like, oh, maybe I do need that. I've been wanting to. Like, that's not that vital. And
They're
if
just catering to what
you want.
What you want. They're just helping you out.
So essentially, I don't think anybody's brainwashing you to change your habits of behavior. Now, to some people, you might be like, hey, that's intrusive. Like, I don't want you to see
Depends on the person. Yeah, I think you're right. Because then they're kind of just like promoting the things you're already looking at. They're just helping you along.
Well,
But
like PayPal
some
is a
people
great
don't like that.
PayPal is a great example where PayPal, the introduction of PayPal or the invention of PayPal has increased the profits of companies manyfold because they made checkout very express,
Easy, yeah.
very easy. The moment you're laying on the couch, you're like, I want that, but there's no PayPal or express checkout.
You don't even buy it.
You're like,
you don't want to go get your card.
I'm not going to go into the mudroom,
Yeah.
get my purse, get my credit card out. You're not going to be like, screw it, I don't need. I've done it, you know.
And now it's
I'm not-
Apple Pay, yeah.
So it's just natural human behaviors. And if you have a problem with that, I think you need to change your own human behaviors. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, are you an impulsive buyer? Are you buying things just because you can see them? Are you like, if that's the case, then change your ways. Don't blame that you're being brainwashed. You're not being brainwashed. We're just another creature of habit. Deer wake up every night, they bed down the same place unless they're being pressured. They walk the same trailhead, which is a little walkway that they created because of habitual patterns of walking up and down. They go to water, they have water, they go find a food source, and then around noon they go bed down when the sun is really hot down the middle because they need to cool off, and they'll go lay down in the same area. They're creatures of the least path of resistance if they're not being pressured. The moment they're being pressured, the human behavior, animal behavior gets out of whack. So we have the same behaviors. If you look at yourself as another creature, it's a lot easier to understand yourself.
Yeah. I think people just like, there are people that just like the idea of privacy.
Well, then stay off social media.
Then I was just going to say, but then just don't get on the app if you are really that
Don't use
concerned.
smartphones. That's another one.
Yeah.
Like,
use a good old fashioned flip phone.
get a flip phone. There's many people who do that. Go live. Don't get connected to the internet. Like, you can't blame. I hate when people blame that there is this ulterior motive that they're trying to manipulate you and change your level of behavior. It's not that. Like, you're thinking there's a group of people who are very easily coerced, and yes, you can make them be like, is the earth flat? Sure.
You know what? That's a great question.
I saw the 1964 videos of them going to the moon or 1969. Like, yeah, it seems, funky.
Something's fishy.
And I seen a YouTube video that debunked it. So therefore, because of that, everything else that social media puts out, it's all a collusion. No, you're just easily manipulated. Yeah, it's just have your snout be out for a second,
I feel like my snout is out way more after being married to you.
In a good way or a bad way?
No, good way.
You think it's a good way?
I am such a naturally gullible person, hence being influenced by stupid things all the time.
I swear to you, every time I look at that dumb trampoline in our bedroom, that little small
It's
3 by 4 by
mini
4
trampoline that's supposed to be really good for
Can
your
you
body.
explain to me?
No, we're just gonna move right past that.
You want to pass it? Are we gonna throw it away?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll sell it.
you'll sell it. It's even better. It's even better.
But like all my life, I was just always like that. I was convinced. Like, it's not like it was everything. I think there's just certain things that do convince me, and it's when you can prove or act like you can prove to me that a product works or something works, or you tie an emotion into it. That really always got to me. Like, people who,
I'm very curious.
I like the people who would walk up to me at like Winco or Walmart and ask for money and be like, oh my gosh, I just need like $20, please. I need to feed my family. And then of course I'm going to give them money. I mean, a lot of times I didn't have cash, but if I did, I always gave it to them because it's like it tugs on your emotions.
Right.
And who knows if they really needed it for that, but they knew where to come.
Right.
To ask somebody for money.
There's not a lot of people who will go to Winco or anywhere else and be like, please, I need to feed my family.
Yeah.
It's more of like, and again, maybe there's one person who did it, but I'm willing to bet it's like the people who stand outside on the corners. They're not homeless, but they'll stand in the corner of an intersection with a gas canister and a sign.
Yeah.
Typically, people who run out of gas don't prepare
a sign.
Not even a sign. You can figure out a sign situation. If you didn't prepare to make sure you have fuel in your car, you definitely didn't prepare to have a canister in your trunk of your car.
Seriously.
That's not a thing.
It's like brand new. It still has like the little tag on it.
Like you're very, and I promise you, I'm not trying to attack you for this, but like you're much more likely than me to run your tank very low, right?
Oh, I do it every time. I've gotten a little bit better.
Sure. That's what
but there's been times where it's gone to 0.
Right. But what I'm going with this is because you have that tendency, right? Because you have that tendency and you're admitting to it. It's not like you have a canister in your car.
No. I'm going to call you to bring me gas.
Right. So the way my brain is working is like if you are standing.
Do you have one?
No.
Because you would never run out of gas.
Well, because I never let my truck go less than quarter tank full. Because diesel is far more scarce to find in terms of gas stations
so you have
than gas, right? So you're like, you could find a gas station and be like, cool, we don't carry diesel. So you're like, well, I need to find a diesel. So typically diesel owning trucks, guys that own trucks, and gals, I want to be inclusive. They're a little bit more, they're less risky when it comes to running low.
Be a little bit more
because
responsible.
You pull up to a Shell gas station, like, sorry, we don't carry diesel at this particular one. You're like, well, I'm SOL, right? Mm-hmm. And those things are guzzlers. But
sometimes I'm driving and I think I could stop at the gas station, but maybe Alex will be driving my car tomorrow.
Do you really think that? Do you really?
Not always.
But sometimes you do? That's interesting.
And he always fills it up.
I feel good filling up your car. Like I do because I'm like, oh, I'm helping her out.
Oh, you're so sweet.
But when you're intentionally throwing me out.
No, I don't try. If I know, like tomorrow, like if I'm driving home or something, I'm like, tomorrow I'm not going to want to drive to the gas station as I'm taking the kids to school. Just do it now. Mm-hmm. But obviously we all make mistakes and we still let it run on empty.
But the people who are standing outside, Winco or a Shell gas station with a canister, those are people who read some analytics of human behavior where they're like, well, it's 5:00, people are grocery shopping for their family. And so what if I create, now again, I'm sure there's some real life scenarios of people who truly are in that desperate situation and they're trying to, but I'm willing to bet those people are planning ahead in terms of like, well, I'm more likely to get food if I apply for food stamps or EBT or whatever. But there's people, this is the unfortunate part, is there's people who pull on people's heartstrings.
They abuse
right. And this is outside of people with like mental illnesses where they're like a veteran and, that's a whole different story. But we're talking about people who are intentionally are trying to manipulate people's emotions. My parents, I remember, keep in mind, immigrant parents, we were living in Seattle. I was a kid at that time, probably 16 or something like that. My parents were driving through in Bellevue, which is a nice part of Washington. A lot of new money is there. Mm-hmm. And it's this downtown area. And my parents were telling me the story that they were on the stoplight off of like 8th and something, which is like a very prime location. They saw a guy take off what they described as like his top garment, like off of him, and took a sign, walked like half a mile down the street or quarter mile down the street, and then like opened the trunk of his Mercedes-Benz, put that in there and drove off. Now this is my parents telling me the story.
Okay, you know what's funny? My dad told me the same story.
Okay,
so
that's a made-up story then.
It's a made-up story.
That's a made-up story.
It's not the same car. I don't think it was the same car. But my dad told me once when I was young. I wonder if this is like a rumor that like spread across.
I
like
heard one time.
But like he said the same thing. He was like, I was once driving and I saw a guy with a sign, and then when he was done, I looked and he went around the corner and got into his nice car, BMW, whatever. It was probably a different car, but it was the same story.
I've never seen anybody get into a fancy car. Like if I see it, it's like seeing a UFO. You know what I mean? You hear these like stories of UFOs, and you'll be driving. You're like, if I see one, would I tell anybody, or would I think I'm just being crazy and like or something like that? It's the same thing about that. You're like, would I tell somebody if I saw a homeless guy take off dirty stuff and then put it in the back of a Mercedes and drive off? I don't know. Kyle, have you heard a story like that?
I heard that same story.
Oh, this is
We've all heard it.
This is a folklore then.
This is totally a folk.
Oh my gosh.
We've
Why
all
are their
heard that
parents coming
story.
up with these stories?
To scare us, not to give
To
people
give people
money.
money? Yeah.
Messed up.
That is, which is wild to me that, listen, and I'm only speaking of this as being an immigrant in your family. You were an immigrant as well. So you went through this like loopholes, like you said your parents came here with like $50 in their pocket or
I
something
think
like
it was. My mom said it was like $20.
Right.
Yeah.
that. Same thing with my parents, just a couple of bags and I don't know how much cash. And there's these which they should be crutches, right? They went through the welfare system. They were on this crutch. They got off of it. They started their jobs. They got their first home. Like that should be a natural progression into the wild, essentially, like rehabilitating somebody. And so it's so difficult for me to see people now. Keep in mind, people with not like mental illnesses or anything like that. We're just to people who are trying to abuse the system as a crutch, where they're more likely to stand in a suburban neighborhood with a sign, say, anything will help. And then you just left Lowe's, Home Depot, McDonald's, and drove past McDonald's or a couple others, and it says they're like, help wanted, help wanted, help wanted. And you're like, you would much rather stay here and stand here. Now, I don't know what their return on their ROI is, their return on investment.
Maybe they're making better money than us. Yeah.
I don't know, but it bums me out when you'll go anywhere and they're like every restaurant has a help wanted, and you're like, geez, like
yeah. I was going through the McDonald's drive-thru for my kids the other day, and there was a sign that said $15 an hour to start.
some places even
That's
say
great.
there's a signing bonus. They're
Yeah.
like, I think
'Cause they're looking that-
McDonald's says like there's a $500 signing
Yeah,
bonus.
because they need people.
Yeah. And McDonald's is actually interesting. And the only reason I say we keep bringing up McDonald's because it's like right here and I keep going to Home Depot, so I keep seeing it.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But their little board, like on the McDonald's sign, actually says like text here. Like you don't have to even go download an application. Like maybe you're like, I don't have a computer.
They're
But
like literally anyone.
They're like, text this number. We'll set up a job interview. And give
You're
you
hired.
a
Yeah.
signing bonus. Like it's
Yeah.
so
They're making it so much easier
Yeah.
for you to do it. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I was like $15 an hour.
I think COVID kind of really jacked up the system because people saw that there was opportunities or resources, kind of like the welfare system that, again, your family, my family, and we were on. And this is like one thing further where you're like, what? Like I've heard stories during the pandemic. Remember the pandemic?
Vaguely.
I've
blur.
heard stories of people working at restaurants. About Kyle, tell me if you encountered this. But people who worked at certain restaurants or bars had to lower their hours so that they can get the bonuses from. They're not called bonuses, but from the government. They're able to get. What are they called?
Like unemployment type.
Yeah, unemployment thing. Like you have to only work like less than like
I
25
see.
hours a week or something like
To
that.
get
So
some
there's an incentive
benefit.
to less hard work, essentially.
And that's what people were doing.
Yeah, I've heard stories of people doing that.
Well, and people just quitting or being unemployed in general
Yeah.
because they were getting the stimulus checks that were more than
Stimulus checks. That's the word that I was looking for.
yeah. Oh, you had to be under.
You had to be under like 25, 30
Oh, I thought
hours.
it wasn't hour. It wasn't hourly, wasn't it? More of you had to make under a certain amount. I think that's what it was.
Oh, interesting. I've heard a different story.
Oh, maybe it was a
less
different kind of
amount
stimulus.
hours,
Maybe
yeah.
there were different kinds. I'm not sure, but yeah, and that's what people were getting, and so they're like, well, I'm not going to work if I'm getting these like checks, and then. Yeah.
I don't want to be conspiratorial, but I find it interesting.
Here we go. Here we go.
This is conspiracy theory cuties.
Conspiracy cuties. We're back at it again.
3.0.
Conspiracy
Episode
cuties.
3. I find it interesting the fact that all these, what do we call them? These stipends that they were giving out.
Stimulus
These
checks.
stimulus checks come out, and then the pandemic's over, and all of a sudden the Biden administration, this is not an anti-Biden thing, but the Biden administration like hires how many thousand IRS agents? Like,
Recently?
well, this was like I think a year
Oh,
ago they
yeah.
hired. It was like
It
in the
was,
thousands.
It was
Yeah.
kind of debunked. Too.
87,000 IRS
It
agents.
was kind of debunked too because a lot of people are like retiring. So even though it's a huge amount, there's some that are
They made it
retiring.
sound like it was so much, but there's also
Some
a lot of people
do other
leaving.
stuff and
Well, and what I mean by it is like these are debt collectors, right? Essentially, and they are. I remember hearing on another podcast that the job description when they're hiring them is like you have to be able to carry a weapon and use it if you need it. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a IRS tax agent having
a
to
weapon?
carry a weapon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's the
they're-
conspiracy?
Well, the conspiracy theory is the fact that they gave all this money. Now they're trying to collect it back.
They're trying to get it back.
Yeah.
Remember that one time we gave you stimulus checks? Well, here we are.
And the unfortunate part is like they're not going after like the big fish.
No,
like, they're going
it's the
after the
people
easy
who-
people who
yeah.
still owe like $1,500 in taxes
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. The ones where you can easily collect from them,
Like-
probably.
I remember when I worked at a restaurant in Seattle, it was like end of the day, you get your tips in your pocket, right? And then you have your like where you're claiming like on the computer, like on this little checkout counter thing. And it's like you have to claim your taxes there, and that's what goes to like register with the IRS. So like you can manipulate those numbers any way you want, and they know that. And so you could
That's what they-
say,
yeah.
"Oh, I made $20 in tips," and those are the people that are going to get audited because they know that's
How
how
much, yeah.
the people are not claiming tips. Which that's
They
what they're
know.
doing. Yeah,
They know everything.
yeah. It's a wild time to be
So
alive.
do you think? I know. So do you think? Do you think it will get banned or no?
TikTok?
Yeah. The other, I think, the other the other way it could go, I guess, would be to change the like privacy settings just for the U.S.
Like a United States version,
a
essentially.
United States version of TikTok. That's exactly it.
I think the only way that would happen is if,
It'd be like a whole new app, right?
well, it could be the same app, but I think what would happen is the TikTok Chinese version would have to pay out to the United States
Yeah.
government, meaning everything
They're
I've
gonna lose
learned from
money.
like the Bernie
Yeah.
Madoff stuff or the military industrial complex is that nothing is morally based. Everything is based off of who is going to benefit in their pockets
Yeah.
with money. So if the best case scenario I see here is there's going to be a U.S. version of TikTok that is a branch off of the Chinese TikTok. It's going to be completely different, and the United States government is going to get a chunk of money out of it. And then
I mean,
they
that's
can
what they
keep it.
want.
Apart from that, it'll be interesting to see for the first time in history
If it does get
a
completely
globally
banned.
social platform to be banned.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. I have a feeling it won't, but who knows?
It's scary, this conversation's for people who are solely TikTokers
Solely TikTokers.
and they
yeah.
make good money doing it. Like, I don't know how they do it.
Which, if you're pretty big on TikTok, I think most people have already branched into either YouTube or Instagram. So I would say if you're already big, you probably have your
They're
eggs
fine.
in other baskets.
Yeah.
But if there are people that are really big and only on TikTok,
Yeah.
that is a little bit scary.
If they haven't branched off, they're dummies,
Yeah.
right? Because this has been a conversation for the last 2 years, if not 3. It was a conversation
Right.
when Trump was still
Yeah,
president.
so, like, you
so
gotta-
if that was a conversation that would have been like, okay, things are going well for me, I need to branch out, move this. I've seen TikTok accounts like that guy that does the Asian guy that does like emotional damage, right? Like our kids are obsessed about.
Our kids.
He's got a YouTube account now, and our kids only watch him on YouTube now. So that's an example of a guy who was like, hey, this TikTok thing can go away. I need to branch out and transfer my audience to a safer
Different,
platform
yeah.
in case one day this goes away. That's a smart person.
Yeah.
The
so
people who
if-
didn't do that are dummies, and they're going to lose all of it because
gonna lose
you
it, yeah.
cannot, in the world of social media, and I can't express this enough, put all your eggs in one basket and keep them there because algorithms change. You could be the hot star today, but 2 years from today, it could all go away. You gotta diversify. Get on Facebook video, get on the Reels, get on Rumble, get on everything and anything out there, and just know that it's there so that when one thing shuts down, the rest can still be afloat and you will still be relevant. You won't be erased.
Right.
It's the same thing with YouTube.
Build
You
it up
can't just
slowly.
be on YouTube. Like, diversify into Facebook. They will put ads on there. Diversify into Instagram Reels. They'll put ads. Not a lot of money on Instagram Reels for that, but there'll be an audience that you can still communicate and transition to.
But yeah, at least there'll be an audience where you can get brand deals and whatever. I also have heard that Instagram Reels bonuses are going away.
I didn't
That's
hear
interesting. I think
You got insider information on a lot of this stuff.
I follow the account. I think he's the CEO Instagram.
Are they going away because the profit margins have decreased? Because there's not they had a board of directors meeting with their profits, and last year their 2022 profits were
down.
So
Well, and I think the whole thing was the reason they did the bonuses, and it was the incentive for people to do reels instead of TikToks.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had all this influx of reels of people making them. And then now that it's kind of been going on for a while, they're probably like, well, now we can stop paying people.
Yeah, there's enough incentive.
The head of Instagram I follow.
You follow the head of Instagram?
Yeah.
Wow. Is he a good
Well,
follow?
he's got 1.9 million followers. So.
They're bot. He's got a blue check?
He does he does.
Oh, bot.
You can, I think I don't remember if it was him or somebody else posted about him that you'll be able to buy your blue check mark.
Yeah. Subscription base, you said, right?
Yeah. I think it's going to be like a subscription. I think it's going to be a monthly.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
That's a money grab.
I feel like everybody's going to have a blue check. If it's like $15
you're
bucks
like,
a month
cool,
or
yeah,
something.
I'll pay it. Yeah.
Easy. But that's another way for them to get money now.
Yeah.
So much money.
It's all for profit.
Yeah.
And they're doing that because they're not getting advertisers as much, I think. The ad revenue went down.
So they need a way.
Well, we're in a recession. All these tech
Yeah.
companies are laying off employees. That means they're not advertising as much. So
it's all crazy.
Yeah. Well, folks, thanks for sticking around for another episode of Conspiracy Cuties. We'll catch you on the next one.
If you want to hear more, yeah, we'll hit you up on the next one. Bye.